Hi, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the Prop 1 Round 2 OWOW Participatory Workshop number 2. We'll get started just a couple minutes. Welcome to those who just joined to the Prop 1 Round 2 OWOW Participatory Workshop. We'll just give it another couple minutes here before we get started. All right, it's 9 a.m. So why don't we give it one more minute before we get started? We'll get started at 9:01. We'll welcome everyone to the Prop 1 Round 2 Participatory Budgeting Workshop for the OWOW process. Note that this meeting is being recorded, I think. Yes, it is. It's being recorded. Let's give it another minute here and then we'll get started. All right, it's 9:01. Why don't we go ahead and get started? Welcome to the One Water, One Watershed Participatory Budgeting Workshop number 2. This is the second one. First one occurred on June 30th. And as you know, we are here today to move forward through the participatory budgeting process and eventually select through this stakeholder process the projects that should be recommended for Proposition 1, Round 2, Integrated Regional Water Management, or IRWM grant funding. So I've got the agenda shown on the second PowerPoint slide here. And the PowerPoint that I'm showing is the same one that I sent out to the project applicants last night in an email. And if you are a stakeholder who didn't submit a project, you will also find this PowerPoint in the Google Drive folder that was mailed out to you through the OWL mailing list. So here's our agenda today. We'll go through introductions, and the majority is going to be me talking with hopefully a lot of questions from the applicants and stakeholders. We encourage a lot of questions throughout this process. We got a lot of good feedback from commenters. Project applicants responded to comments, and that's really good. We like a lot of dialogue in these processes, because if project proponents know more about the projects that are recommended for funding at the end of the day, the more buy-in there is. So we'll do introductions, and then we'll do a brief recap of the June 30th workshop. I'll do a high-level overview of project applicants' response to SOPA and stakeholder comments. I'll then go through project changes allowed due to comments and feedback. And I've categorized them based on different nuances, different categories of the SOPA staff comments that we had, and basically the changes that are allowed per our policy. And then we'll talk about feedback on, this was another major category that I didn't put here. I put it in its own agenda item. It's, changing the numeric benefits like acre feet a year or acres restored from habitat, changing those. So that's another category. And next steps, we'll talk about our workshop. So what's the point of today? Before we do introductions, like why are we meeting today? You may be wondering where the ranking of the projects is. We aren't at that point yet. We got everyone's projects submitted at the close of the call for projects deadline. And we got your numeric benefits, we got your project write-ups, but as you can tell, we're in kind of a middle stage before we rank the projects. Before we rank them, we wanted to make sure we cleared up any questions from the SOPA staff level and from the group, the stakeholders here and the project applicants, about the benefits claim, because you can claim any amount of benefits. You could claim you're benefiting the entire Southern California region from your project, but we want to make sure that your project can withstand questions about your benefits, about your benefit area. So that's why we're kind of in this holding pattern where we're working out the comments. Then project proponents respond to the comments, and then maybe we have a follow-up comment. So all that's kind of in limbo now, and we're working towards ranking the projects once all those comments and responses to comments are worked out. And once that works out, we'll have numbers in the spreadsheet, your benefits, and we can rank them and see where the projects lie. So we hope to have that the spreadsheet with all your numeric values that are confidently in the spreadsheet since the comments are worked out. We hope to have that all done and projects ranked in 2 weeks from today. So that's why we're holding this workshop today, to basically do a check-in where we are with SOPA's feedback, where project proponents, where they were coming from with some of their major comments. So it's kind of a check-in meeting before we get to the finale when projects are ranked. Any questions on that, the purpose of the workshop today, or is there anything else that you don't see on the agenda that you would like to discuss? Hopefully people can hear me. I'm not on mute or anything. Can people?
We can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great. I just get nervous when it's too quiet. All right, well, let's do introductions. I'll do that. It's just kind of hard to do when we're all remote, but I'll do them. And if I don't know where you're from, if you can say where you're from. So first up, we have Joan Chan from, I believe, West Valley Water District.
Yeah, Joanne Chan of West Valley Water District.
Great, welcome. We also have Haley Moulet from SAPA. We have someone from Rialto. If you don't mind introducing yourself, it says Rialto Network. Maybe that's a bot. We'll come back to them. Rachel, we have Rachel Davis from the Municipal Water District of Orange County. John Worth from Eastern Municipal Water District. Casey McPherson from San Bernardino County Parks Department. Keith Backus from Harupa Community Services District. Bill Schwartz from Monte Vista Water District. Chris Garcia from Inland Empire Utilities Agency. Mona Sadek, can you please state where you're from? Mona, you're still on mute if you're talking. We'll come back to Mona. I believe it's Lisa Munoz from Inland Empire Utilities Agency. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Great. We also have Jonathan Oliver Skinner. Do you mind stating what's your affiliation, Jonathan?
Good morning. Yes, Jonathan from the city of Lake Elsinore.
Welcome, Jonathan. We have Kevin O'Toole from Orange County Water District. And then it says on Zoom CRWA. Do you mind, whoever's affiliated with that?
This is Dylan Dibble with CRWA.
Dylan Dibble with Cal Rural Water Association. Thank you, Dylan. We have Melissa Matlock from Western Municipal Water District, Rick Wetzel from SAPA, Madeline Blua from Yucaipa Valley Water District. We have a Dawn with no last name. Dawn, do you mind introducing yourself?
Don Howe at Riverside Highland Water Company.
Welcome, Dawn.
Thank you.
We have Nicolette Jokoff from Eastern Municipal Water District, Ashley Womack from Inland Empire's Utilities Agency, Jennifer Nevius from City of Rialto, Jesse Pompa from Inland Empire Utilities Agency, and Patty. Do you mind introducing yourself? Maybe Annie, Patty. Annie, you're on mute if you're trying to talk. We have Christy Suppies from County of Orange, Mo Urbesnik, consultant for Inland Empire Utilities Agency, Mark Norton from SAPA, Dustin Mickle from San Bernardino Flood Control District, Emmeline Gu. Emmeline, do you mind introducing yourself?
Hi, my name is Emmeline. I'm a consultant for Harupa Community Services District.
Great, thank you, Emmeline. Let's see, where were we? Thomas Crowley from City of Rialto, Eddie Ree from Harupa Community Services District, Charlie McKinley, do you mind introducing yourself?
A consultant for Harupa Community Services District.
All right, welcome. R. Christensen, do you mind introducing yourself?
Hi, this is Rebecca Christensen with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service.
Great, welcome. Joanna Gibson from San Bernardino Valley Municipal Water District. Savannah Regan. Savannah, do you mind introducing yourself?
Oh, yeah. I'm Savannah Regan, and I'm a consultant for the city of Santa Ana.
Okay, great, welcome. Tammy Kars-Riddick, do you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, sure. It's Tammy Kirschrodak, and I'm a consultant with AECOM, working with the city of Lake Elsinore and Sapa.
Oh, okay, great. Welcome. Joe Berg from Municipal Water District of Orange County. Sudha Shoga, do you mind, Sudhi Shoga, do you mind introducing yourself?
Good morning. Yes, I'm Sudhi Shoja with Engineering Solution Services, and I'm representing City of Santa Ana.
Great, welcome. Aaron Jones from San Bernardino Valley Municipal Water District, and Dan Levy. Dan, do you mind introducing yourself? your
Sure.
affiliation.
Dan Levy, I'm a consultant for the city of Lake Elsinore with the company AECom.
Great. Thank you, Dan. Anyone that I missed?
Jason Gould, consultant for JCSD.
Great, thank you, Jason. Anyone else? All right, great. Well, thank you, everyone. I'm getting some feedback when I'm talking. If everyone doesn't mind muting themselves when they're not talking, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. All right, so recap of the June 30th workshop, our last workshop. So as I mentioned, here we are in the process. The project call for project close on June 1st. And we're in the staff review and participatory budgeting workshop process, and we're working towards submitting these projects, the projects that rank the best, that have the most buy-in from this participatory budgeting process, to the OWOW steering committee and the SAPA commission, and they meet in late September and October. So that's why we want to wrap up our call for projects participatory budgeting process in August, so we have time to submit it for their approval September and October. We'll then submit, work with those strong project applicants who are approved, work with them to submit an application with a bit more detail than what was submitted in the call for projects OWOW project submittal form. Add to what was submitted in terms of work plan, iron that out, and then submit an application to DWR with those top ranked projects in February. DWR will then review those projects from SAPA and then announce awards in April, we estimate, and then we'd work with those strong projects to execute agreements with them in October of next year. That's our best estimate. That's what we're looking at based on the kind of timelines that DWR is given. SAPA received projects, like I said, 24 projects on June 1st. So we submitted comments to those project applicants right before the last workshop in June 30th. And we also had some follow-up comments that we submitted to project applicants last week. We got people's responses to the SAPA comments around July 5th. So we had some follow-up comments to clarify some items. And then also, as a parallel process, stakeholders submitted comments to SAPA. We gave everyone and anyone, we have a email OWOW mailing list that has anyone who's interested in the OWOW process can sign up. And we asked them, we sent out an email blast to that group and said, if you want to comment on these projects, please do. We gave them till July 18th, and we got a number of projects or a number of comments to different projects, and you saw those added to that PDF comment document. So if you had comments to your project, you saw a follow-up email from me last week, and I sent you some more comments. You were one of the lucky ones who got more. As a refresher, we're dealing with pot of money from the state, Proposition 1, Round 2. It's integrated regional water management money, and has two subcategories under IRWM. There's a disadvantaged community pot and a general implementation pot. As an asterisk to the disadvantaged community pot, all of you probably know this at this point, but there is a requirement that your project, if you're a disadvantaged community project seeking disadvantaged community funding, that 75% of your benefit area must be considered DAC. So that's why we spend a lot of time talking about benefit areas too. And this is just a refresher that there's an overall pot of money with IRWM for SAPA. This amount here doesn't include the amount of funding going to the North Orange County process. You may if you're in Orange County, you may have submitted a project to them as well. They have a pot of money too that isn't shown on this slide that's available under the Round 2 umbrella. But for this table, this is the money going through the OWOW process. There's disadvantaged community amount of funding, projects, 6 projects are competing for that. Then 18 projects are competing for the general implementation funding. And then there's also these geographic callouts that we need to make sure that we keep in mind, especially when we get to the next workshop and we're ranking the projects and allocating funding. That's where these categories come in. We got 2 watershed-wide projects, and if those projects score well, they would be eligible for this watershed-wide funding. That's a watershed-wide means a project that benefits Orange County and the upper watershed. The upper watershed is Riverside or San Bernardino County, above Prado Dam, if you're familiar with Prado Dam. And the upper watershed is Riverside County and San Bernardino County, which the majority of the projects that we got for general implementation are in. So that's that.
And this is Mark, just looks like we got an extra digit there up for the upper watershed. I'm not sure what that should be, but I don't think it really matters that much, but 12,372,000, is it 942 or 943?
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, I'll fix that for the next slideshow. Sorry about that.
No problem.
And this is basically the same table here with the same, but with the project amount shown, disadvantaged community and general implementation. This is the amount of grant requests we got, but also the grant amount available. And this notes the amount of this footnote here notes the amount of funding for North Orange County IRWM's process. And then we may have more funding available for the general implementation category than what I showed on the previous slide. One of the projects under round 1, the previous round under proposition 1, will likely not be moving forward. And that project had 2 million allocated to it. So once that project officially gets X'd out of the Prop 1 round 1 queue, it would move over to round 2, the amount of money we're talking about today. So this 14 and so million would go up to about 16 million. So important nuance to point out. And we'll know more about that process or about that money fairly soon. And I already highlighted this pretty much, but as a refresher, purpose of the participatory budgeting process, as you all know, because you're in it, is developed with the goals of transparency, objectivity, and deliberation. That's why we talk about our projects in an open manner. We don't go into a back room and just rank projects. You know, before we rank them, we talk about them in the open and with everybody in the room. And the process, as you can probably tell from if you attended our meeting last month on June 30th, is really we're looking at, are the benefits claimed accurate and follow the DWR and OWL guidelines? And there's a number of DWR and OWL guidelines, some of which I'll highlight today that really get out the comments that we had. I did some investigation. We had some projects proposed, and the comments we had created some further deliberation and required some research into DWR's definition of different items. So you'll see that highlighted in the meeting today. The overall purpose is to make sure we get buy-in, everyone understands what we're talking about. We don't automatically rank the projects right away. You know, we deliberate it before we rank the projects. And as you know, after the participatory budgeting process ends in August, we'll recommend our projects to the governing body, OWL Steering Committee and South Commission. So recap of the June 30th workshop. So what happens? The primary purpose of that workshop was, it was before project proponents addressed staff comments and stakeholder comments we had. So the real purpose was for project proponents, all 24 of them, to share about their project, basically the overall scope, as well as the benefit area that was benefiting. The benefit area is the region of the watershed that is being able to witness and enjoy the benefits of the project, whether it's new supply or new habitat or new stormwater protection. So each project proponent had 2 slides to present, and in order to give workshop attendees an understanding of their projects. So moving forward, next agenda item, what were SAPA staff's comments like? I've been kind of hinting at them this whole time, but what were they really focused on? Well, they reflect similar feedback we received from the Department of Water Resources in Proposition 1, Round 1. And then many of the comments are related to our local guidelines, the OWOW, One Water, One Watershed guidelines. And many comments are viewed through the lens of the IRWM philosophy. Does the project provide new benefits to the region? How does the project impact other portions of the region? Which isn't like a normal question you may get in other grants, state grant programs, but it's a very IRWM regional focused set of tenets that we follow that are reflected in the DWR and OWOW guidelines. And before we get into the projects and how we're dealing with some of the comments, you know, we're allowing changes to your projects based on our comments. You know, people are allowed to tweak portions of their budget, portions of their scope based on our comments. But we don't want to just open up the floodgates to any and all changes because the process would become unmanageable. That's not how, you know, really most grant application processes work. You usually have a deadline where you have to submit your project. You can't really just keep changing it until some end date. You know, we have to have some type of cutoff mechanism. And this is our cutoff mechanism. You know, we have a project changes policy, which we shared as well on June 30th. So the first gist of it is an applicant may make changes based on SAPA's comments, quality control comments, in the document that we provided, as well as items based on DWR guidelines and clarifications that they provide after the OWOW call for projects deadline. Some of the quality control comments may lead you to recalculate your benefit area and greenhouse gas emissions as examples. And as a second part of this policy, what is not allowed is modifications to the project scope of work using information already available before the OWOW call for projects deadline, or unilaterally adding to the benefits claimed in the OWOW call for projects application. And you see that word unilaterally will be important later. And that basically means, you know, just changing it without them being related to the SAPA staff comments. So our first set of comments and responses to comments that we're going to go through are related to the benefit areas and what we're allowing projects to be able to change related to our benefit areas are based on that policy statement that I showed, as well as our benefit area guidance. And this was in the application when you submitted, but you can see our guidance tries to categorize different projects based on the benefits that they're providing, like an inland water body open to the public, which is something that some of the lake-oriented projects can take advantage of. And then there's things like ecosystem projects that have designated 12 level watersheds as their kind of the categories they're able to use when determining their benefit area. This is all written with the goal of allowing or forcing project proponents to be a bit more specific when they're explaining their benefit area and not just saying the entire watershed is benefiting or the entire upper watershed is benefiting from this action or everywhere downstream of Prado is benefiting. We're trying to force people to be more detailed when they're talking about their benefit areas. So there are a couple of benefit area changes that we're allowing. Lejua, San Bernardino Parks, and Rialto, they're those lake-oriented projects. They're able to increase their benefit areas by utilizing the benefit area guidelines for their buffer area, so that 10-mile buffer area around lakes. Santa Ana is able to decrease their benefit area and they're doing that so they get a beneficial adapt calculation. Before they had a big benefit area showing their entire service area was benefiting. But using their quantitative benefits, they've got a well project and a recycled water project. They're decreasing their benefit area to a more specific area of their service area. Western wanted to ensure that their benefit area represents the groundwater basin they are benefiting, as well as the regional partners who are using new supply from that basin. They wanted to ensure that was okay. And we also got a public comment about that. Got a public comment saying, it seems like the project here, and this was a PFAS water supply cleanup project. We got a public comment saying it seems like the benefit area they're claiming is larger than the others. But what they're doing, and we investigated, all that's okay per the SAPA policy, the OWOW and DWR policy. And I'll explain more why. And the reason why is we looked into it, and there's benefit area guidance from the DWR PSP, which was made available to the applicants when they proposed their projects through the OWL call for projects, and they describe what a project benefit area is as well. It can be determined by the area receiving the primary benefit from the project, not the physical location of the project. So not where you're like building a PFAS treatment like facility, but really the basin or the service area that is benefiting. They want to make sure you're not just claiming your benefit area is just this little well casing area immediately around where you drilled the well. They also say that primary benefit must be a quantified direct benefit of the project. It can't just be some qualitative benefit like, oh yeah, our whole region's benefiting because people are learning from our project. They're seeing what we're doing and we're explaining to them the benefits of our project. So the whole region's benefiting from our project. You can't do that. It's got to be quantified direct benefit. Does anyone have any questions on that so far? Did I miss anyone's project? Maybe you're thinking of your project right now, like, hey, and what about my project? Do I get to take advantage of this? Does anyone have any questions on this so far before we move on?
Ian, I have a question regarding the JCSD Adawana project. In the first workshop, we discussed to extend that to the entire Chino Basin. We submitted a new map based on DWR 118, but it's not included in here.
Yeah, sorry for missing that. I'll go back and look at your project and your description. That might have been an oversight on my part. While we're talking about your project, do you mind explaining what the benefit is to Chino Basin from your particular project from a quantitative perspective? Like how is it related to like the water supply or water quality being cleaned up?
Basically, water supply. One major thing is, as Chris Birch mentioned, in the recent Chino Basin Water Master Basin Optimum Management (OBMP) workshops, one of the fundamental backbone from north portion of the Chino Basin to the south portion of the Chino Basin was identified. This project will serve that purpose, which connecting the northern portion of the Chino Basin to the southern, including CDA and the IEOA's Chino Basin project, and for future groundwater treatment and cleanup, storage, water banking, etc. That's why we decided this project should be the benefit area should be extended. So that based on that recommendation, we submit our map.
Great, thank you. I may have some follow-up questions with you. I just want to make sure per the DWR policy, we're talking about like quantitative benefits from your project. So I'll follow up with you and ask.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah, I'll look at what you submitted and get back to you on that. It may just be an oversight on my part, but let me look into it for you.
Thank you.
And I see John Worth from Eastern has his hand raised.
Hey, thanks, Ian. Just a quick, probably a dumb question. So since it's quantified direct benefit, that's more associated with the water side of things, not necessarily the DAC benefit area. I think we had talked a little bit about the Cottonwood Pipeline project. The DAC area that we were identifying was just the specific areas that we're going to be using recycled water versus the community benefit for access to those parks and facilities.
Yeah, it would be
some things.
Yeah, it would be more focused on quantified benefit means the water supply in your case.
Okay.
When it's recreational and people visiting, it's too indirect for DWR. And that's largely, their lawyers have weighed into this. And they see this, their lawyers are very conservative and they see this as a, water funding. It needs to be directly related to like benefiting DAC residents. So like a recreation is too indirect for them. in terms of the benefit.
Well, and our project is as it is, it's 100% DAC. I guess the question then would be from a quantitative perspective, if we were to look at the amount of potable water offset that our project is providing, can we extrapolate that out in terms of the number of residents or homes that it would benefit, because it would be significantly more than the area that's shown, the geographic area that's shown. I'm not sure if that makes a difference in terms of ranking or scoring, but just think that, you know, if we would look at it from a acre foot offset, you know, it would provide, you know, several hundreds of homes worth of offset.
Yeah.
Of benefit.
So yeah, just so I understand you right. So currently your benefits in the benefits table is the amount of like new water going to this site, correct? This like these outdoor sites, these landscape meters.
Correct.
And you're talking about utilizing the downstream effects of this project, which is like offsetted, you know, more reliability for customers in this like area around this recycled water facility.
Right. So it preserves the potable, you know, local groundwater and imported water. It preserves that water that would normally be used for irrigation is now being able to be used for supporting the residents in this area.
Yeah, I can ask DWR about it. They'll probably, you know, just say to me, Ian, you're overthinking it. You know, it's a good question. I don't know if it really helps you guys at the end of the day. It doesn't really get you more points, because it's not like the bigger your benefit area, the more points you get. We don't have a ranking like metric like that. Sure. I guess it would matter to you if like your current benefit area isn't like a very good DAC percentage, like it's only like 49% and you wanted to get it up, you would, you know, you'd want to push it harder.
So is the metric then just the percentage and not the area, not the amount? It's just the percentage.
You're asking about when I was like loading up and saying how important that term is, quantified metric?
Well, in terms of DAC, so you indicated that it wouldn't really help us because we're 100% DAC benefit area as it is. But that area, that the geographic area of DAC that we're claiming is relatively small versus what, you know, if we were to extrapolate the amount of potable offset to the number of residences, that area would be larger.
You're asking, is there like a square mile benefit area, like part of the formula to get more points?
Right, exactly. Is okay.
Yeah. No.
Okay, great. Thank you. No, that was from our last meeting when we were discussing the DAC benefit area. That was one of the things that we talked about. So
yeah.
Just wanted to get clarification on that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, the only way you would your square mile of your benefit area really matters if you're almost to like 75% of the total funding area. Then that's where part of the ranking formula kicks in and says, oh, you get extra points for being this giant regional project, but you guys aren't unfortunately anywhere close to that. So yeah, doesn't really help. And okay. Yeah, you're talking about kind of like a secondary benefit of the project, you know, like offsetting. You've already got your primary benefit, which is new recycled water for this area. You're talking about like offset, now you're offsetting and these other entities. We go down that road with all projects, you know, we could be here for another month, like talking about downstream benefits from the projects. And our policy doesn't really, yeah, I'd have to look at it more, but it doesn't really go allow that at this point. I can look into it further and talk to DWR about it, but it's really supposed to be like the primary benefits from the project.
Okay, I appreciate that. And yeah, sometimes I've been accused of overthinking as well. So
it's good to think. Yeah, it's good to think big picture like that, though. So Any other questions? These are all great questions. All right, let's see what I got on the next slide here. To build off that, here's this gets more into some of the projects that we had where there's a groundwater basin involved and there's a water quality benefit to that. I think Valley District and Western had a project like this. And they could go either way in claiming the groundwater basin as their benefit area, or the service areas that are relying from that direct quantified benefit. They're getting the benefit from your project. They're the service areas benefiting from this project. You can claim just the smaller area or just the larger area, similar to how Santa Ana is doing. So I just wanted to highlight that because it's an important nuance there, and we're able to do that because of DWR's guidance that I showed on the previous slide. So, and John from Eastern just kind of pointed out the different ways you can start thinking about that when it comes to non-groundwater basin projects. So it's not just groundwater basins, but it gets a little complicated. So any questions on benefit areas? I'll look in the JCSD because you guys weren't included on that slide that I mentioned, but anyone else with any benefit area questions? I think that's the last slide I had on benefit areas. Yeah. All right, well, another type of comment we had was downstream impact comments, and this gets at our RWM philosophy point that I made earlier and how that ties into the OWOW and DWR guidelines. So several projects included changes that involve downstream habitat or even like upstream water supply systems that are where their new water is coming from. And those involve the IUA's project with a Rialto Channel, JCSD or Group of Community Services District project with the Upper Chino Basin, City of Santa Ana, where they're relying on an upstream facility to get new water, Green Acres project, and then Valley District with their Santa Ana River Main Stem project, which is pulling water in the Riverside Narrows area. And then similarly, another project that takes place on the river, but on an upstream creek, San Mateo Creek. It's another project from Yucaipa Valley Water District. So there our comments focus there were making sure that, hey, if your project is moving water around in the watershed, have you considered downstream impacts, in terms of habitat, in terms of other water agencies? And we got responses to comments on all these. I show at the bottom that we're still waiting on a comment from Yucaipa Valley, but I think Yucaipa Valley sent me follow-up as I was emailing out my email last night, so I'll take a look at what they said. But we got good responses from everyone here, but we wanted to share with them, with the group. A lot of them, some of them were focused on taking water out, from its current discharge point in the river. But a lot of them talked about the mitigation they're doing, the coordination they've done with other entities, the fact that especially in the Riverside Narrows, there's groundwater upwelling in the area. The moving of water is all even the water is being moved from its current discharge location from the wastewater treatment plant in Riverside near Van Buren Boulevard Bridge. It's being moved to the same geography in the Riverside Narrows geography. Same with San Mateo Creek. They focused a lot on the fact that they've worked with agencies in the area to coordinate this. It's been approved. Green Acres project, similarly, they're taking or they're using Green Acres Water Recycled Water project, but it's been heavily coordinated with other water agencies in it, and it's available. Same with JCSD and the Upper Chino Basin. They're utilizing water, groundwater from the Upper Chino Basin, but it's all part of their adjudicated basin process. So I'll look at the Yucaipa Valley comment there. We just had one comment about coordination with downstream parties like water agencies, but from SAPA's standpoint, we were okay with these, the feedback on downstream impacts. So any questions here? Does anyone need further explanation on this? We also have the project proponents on the call who can speak a lot better to it than I can. Going once, going twice.
I guess it kind of goes back to just, I mean, it seems to, you're looking at several layers of benefits for a project, and what's the difference between like this and the quantified benefits from the previous discussion?
Yeah, say again, John. It's you're kind of connecting the two, the thinking here with the quantified benefits discussion.
Right. Yeah. Just so these are downstream impacts or benefits, right? And so, you know, how is this different than the discussion we just had on the quantified benefits, and that you don't want to add multiple layers of benefits because that's overthinking. How are they?
Yeah.
How are they different?
How are they? Yeah, like I guess yeah, when I say downstream here versus like downstream benefits in the last slide, when I'm saying downstream impacts here, talking about, you know, no one being negatively impacted downstream, because we're all one giant region, so no one being negatively impacted by that's downstream from the activity, whether it's, you know, downstream of like a connected water supply system through a series of pipes, like a recycled water plant and its downstream customers, or a project that is taking recycled water and moving it to a different discharge location. So that's what I'm getting at downstream here. When I was talking about downstream benefits, I meant like, you know, benefits that aren't, that are more like broad, you know, secondary benefits, I guess would have been a better word, from the initial, like, you know, quantified, directly metered benefits that you're getting from your project.
Okay.
Any other questions on this? Any explanation, further explanation needed? All right, well, moving along to other comments that we had related to extra point categories. So there, in our ranking formula, there's a couple extra point categories where you're able to get additional points in the formula, and you basically your points are multiplied by these extra percentages. So if you got 100 points, but you also had a nonprofit partner, you would get 105 total points. You would get an increase of 5%. So, you know, we didn't have any comments related to tribal benefit or nonprofit partner or lead, you know, people claiming those, because that's pretty objective. But some that were more subjective was regional benefit and new and innovative decision support tools. So we look closely at those. You get 15% extra points for regional benefit, 5% extra points for new and innovative decision support tool, which is defined as project employs new or innovative technology or practice, or as a pilot project. So, you know, we looked into new and innovative extra point claim. You know, we looked because we got a comment, public comment was submitted to the JCSD's project, which is the Etowanda Valley Intertie. It's a big regional intertie project, intertying two different systems, water systems, because they claimed a new and innovative. So we looked into the DWR definition, which we use, you know, as you can see, we kind of parroted what they were saying with new and innovative. So I looked more closely into the language they use, and we think, you know, it's our opinion that they're able to claim justifiably this new and innovative claim. JCSD is. And here's you can see in the quotes here how DWR defines it in their guidance, which is based on a section of the water code. So DWR's got their guidance, and they're basing their guidance on the section of the water code. So a reasonable, new and innovative means a reasonable explanation. You have to have a reasonable explanation of how a project employs newer innovative technology practice, including but not limited to decision support tools that support integration of multiple jurisdictions, new and innovative business approaches, technology partnerships, etc. Technologies that were developed and or became accessible within the last 10 years. So that 10-year mark is nice, that allows projects to claim new and innovative technology within that time frame. New applications of existing technologies, pilot studies seeking to test technologies or management strategies for future implementation projects. So they had a large scale partnership project, it was intertie, but it was also a large scale basin-wide integrated project. So they're able to take advantage of really the language here, technology or partnership, innovative business approach. So SAPA's of the opinion that they're justified in taking that new and innovative approach. And I think that's the only only project we looked into for new and innovative. Everything else was pretty straightforward. Let me see. Oh, and here's further detail on this. Oh, that's another item. Never mind. Yeah, this is our one slide on new and innovative extra points. So I will pause there. Any questions? Maybe you're thinking about your project. Do you have questions on your project? Any other questions here before we move on to decision support tools?
Ian, will there be any consideration for the regional project, 75%? And there are quite a number of projects. They're not 75%, but it's regional themes in the SAPA watershed, Santa Ana watershed. Do you think any changes?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, there's only two projects that meet the definition of regional because they're approximately 75% of the funding area. So that's a slightly different nuance here. That's different than what we're talking about as a innovative business, multiple jurisdiction approach. So yeah, there's only two that fit that, and that's shown. I think I can share the spreadsheet here. This is what was emailed out to you earlier. That's the you can see my screen. It might be a little small. But that's the what was it? The I believe it's the large landscape water efficiency projects, because it had service areas that pretty much covered the entire upper watershed, and then the SAPA weather-based modification project. So you can see I marked them as watershed wide here. I had a note on that, yeah. It's pretty complicated. Any questions on that? It's a good question, Jason. All right, well, let me move back to the spreadsheet here.
Hi, Ian. I have a question. I was trying to find the raise hand button. Anyways, going back to that slide, or not the slide, but the spreadsheet, you had mentioned that IUA may receive the 15% increase. Is that what I'm understanding for the regional benefit?
Correct.
Okay, and that doesn't matter if it because we're servicing the upper watershed, we qualify under that. Is that right?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Chris is getting at the difference between the 15% regional point increaser and the watershed wide. And it is quite complex because watershed wide comes from an agreement that we have with the North Orange County IRWM group that defines those two geographic based pots of money, upper watershed and watershed wide. And then so that's going on. That deals with the money. And then the point increaser is asking about is that regional point increaser if you're 75% of the total size of the watershed. So yeah, it's pretty nuanced there. So thanks for asking, everyone. All right. Any more questions before we move on? All right, so we had some comments related to decision support tools. 2 projects asked to be changed to decision support tools in light of basically new information from DWR. What's a decision support tool? So everybody knows it. That's not a term that we throw around a lot. It's a term that comes from Proposition 1 in the water bond that was passed in 2014. So it's a non-implementation project, basically more of a planning project or pilot project. Where you're studying action. It may not be a project where you have once it's done, you've got your operators operating it and it's included in your like regular operation schedule. They say proposals for decision support tool projects should include a clear description of how data will be collected and used for future projects or the development of future programs. So if you're got a planning oriented decision support tool, how's it going to lead to future implementation of like a brick and mortar project? So we had 2 projects request that change. It doesn't really change, these changes they're requesting don't change the ranking in any way or the funding, but it changes how their projects are really scoped out and utilize this decision support tool definition from DWR. That's the SAPA Santa Ana River Watershed Weather Modification Pilot Project, the Recycled Water Use Expansion Project from the city of Santa Ana. They were requested to change those projects as they're more planning pilot focused due to new feedback from the Department of Water Resources. DWR provided additional feedback once they after they released their final PSP. In a series of workshops. So these modifications are okay per the SAPA OWOW DWR policy. So they were submitted, you had an option to submit your project as either a decision support tool or we called it an implementation project. And these 2 projects submitted implementation project when they really should have submitted decision support tool. So we helped them clarify that with additional information with DWR. So any questions on that before we move on? Questions about decision support tool or ranking formula? Like I mentioned, there's not an additional part of the ranking formula where you get more points or less points for a decision support tool. All right, let me move on here. All right, so coming closer to the end here. So we kind of talked about this earlier, but there were requests to just change the numeric benefits or, unilaterally from SAPA comments. And we got 3 requests for that. IUA through their landscape water use efficiency project found it after the call for projects ended, they found a new water saving study from another water agency, the turf replacement multiplier effect study. Similarly, San Bernardino Parks requested based on additional estimation done using, they have a lake project, so they sought to increase the benefits by including the riparian area. And JCSD had a study that they did, a project-specific study available that would increase the benefits. And unfortunately, changes like this are not allowed to our policy. They're seen as unilateral changes and not related to the comments. And we'd love to, make everyone happy here, but when we get to, ranking projects, you'll see your value. I wanted to lay this out visually because visuals are sometimes powerful. But we'll lay out your ranking, and you'll have your water supply value and basically an asterisk next to your project with your benefits increase. So if people see your rank value, went up, and maybe they had a similar water value or whatever category, they saw that theirs didn't increase while yours did. We're going to not get great buy-in for our process. We're going to get likely more changes to push back the call for projects and people to submit project tweaks with new information, maybe a new study they found, and we're just not going to be able to have a complete and succinct process. So unfortunately, we can't make everyone happy here with making these changes. but I wanted to explain that's where we're coming from with our policy. So any questions on that, on those types of changes requested? Going once, going twice. Let's see any hands raised. All right. A couple more items to point out. So we had a comment, comments related to Rialto, City of Rialto. Their wastewater treatment plant is involved in 2 projects. In Monte Vista Water District, they have 2 wells that we thought had overlapping benefits, but I was working with Monte Vista before this call to clarify that. And I believe Rialto is clarifying those issues as well. So they're addressing those comments, but those are 2 issues I wanted to highlight that we're looking at. And we'll at the next workshop, we'll, have a slide presenting where we landed on this, but we just want to ensure that the same like water molecules aren't double counted in 2 different projects or 3 different projects, because per our policy and per DWR's policy, we need a nice clean ranking of different projects. If you start double counting your projects here, you got overlapping benefits in different projects, you're not going to have a true representation of the strongest projects in the watershed. You're going to get these hypothetical projects that can change depending on like how much money a project gets. What we ask for is for your project that's uniquely scoped, budgeted for in light of the benefits. So we don't want to double count benefits between projects. But we'll continue to work with Rialto and Monte Vista on that and clear that up and present our findings to the group. Any questions there before we move on? Let's see any hands raised.
Yeah, Ian, hi, this is Dan Lee. I got a question. If you go back to that last slide for Lake Elsinore, that will be providing clean water. Is there an opportunity for that to get any recognition on that part of the project?
I think you guys already claimed. Let me look at what you claimed. Lake Elsinore Ledgewood project claimed habitat and water quality. Yeah, you claim you have a water quality benefit there already. Any further questions?
No, that was it. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Any questions from anybody else before we move on? Trying to go nice and slow here.
So Ian, just for clarification, I don't think we want to imply to our group here that water supply is the sole benefit we're ranking on. We are considering this, all projects have to be multi-benefit. And so it'll be a combination of looking at all the benefits and in relation to each other as we compare these. The ranking takes into account water quality, habitat, all the other benefits that might be there. So we're not, only ranking based on water supply, just to clarify.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Mark. Yeah, I was just trying to fit the table in a nice slide, but yeah, I left out the equally important other benefit categories. So yeah, thank you for pointing that out. We're ranking all the different categories of benefits, including the extra point indicators. Any other questions or comments? All right, so we talked about overlapping benefits. Real quick, greenhouse gas calculations. You submitted greenhouse gas as a benefit. I'm still working on, I've asked everyone for their math basically, and I'm following up and analyzing the calculations that were used to ensure all projects are clean. Greenhouse gas are using similar methodology. You don't have to use the exact same methodology, but I want to make sure no one's totally overestimating their benefits and they're including a nice clean net increase or net change from their project. Some projects are replacing imported water with local water. So there's like a net change. There's not a total, decrease. There's some type of net change where your local project may have its own GHG emissions because it likely uses fossil fuels to power it. So I'm double checking all that, and you'll see the goal is, or what we'll have at the end of the day is that category in the spreadsheet. If you look at the spreadsheet, I highlighted in yellow all the different project components that's claim GHG benefits. And we'll have nice numbers that everyone agrees to, and then be able to rank that benefit category. So that'll be done in the next 2 weeks, along with all the other benefits. Any questions there before we move on? And then I think it's one of my last slides, but some entities had changes to their budgets as a result of SAPA staff comments, and those changes are okay for our OL policy. And I highlighted the red cells in the project benefits spreadsheet where we made changes to the budgets. And those are okay because those are in light of SAPA staff comments. Those were primarily due to the fact that some entities left out their project administration, project management costs, which if you don't give it to us now, DWR is going to flag it for us. They love catching that. That's like their favorite thing to catch. So we asked people to add that in. That's usually about 5% of total project cost. So everyone added that in who we asked it of. And that includes a slightly higher budget. It didn't change it a lot, but we included those costs in the spreadsheet. Any questions on that? I think that's my last slide. So what I was going to do now is schedule our next workshop. And like I mentioned, the goal of the next workshop is to go through, the final ranking of the projects. In the next 2 weeks, I'll be clarifying individually, you heard me talk about Monte Vista and Rialto, and as well as Jason Gu from JCSD, clarifying those little things, clarifying the GHG calculations, and then we'll have nice clean numbers in the spreadsheet. We rank the projects. We send out the spreadsheet with the ranked projects ahead of time before the next workshop. Everyone will take a look at that, and we'll discuss that at the next workshop. Why you might have questions of, okay, why is it like this? Why did the score turn out this way? We'll go through that. We'll work through any questions. If people have follow-up questions that can't be resolved in the workshop, so the staff will go back, work through those, and bring back final ranked list. So probably have one last workshop, one third one, but we might have a fourth one if we aren't able to resolve comments. In parallel with that, at that last workshop, if we're able to, I might also share the amount of funding that can be awarded to the projects. If you remember from our last workshop, we talked about how we have our ranking formula. But we also have a formula we use to award funding to the top ranked projects. So it's easy to run both of them because they're both formulas. But depending on the ranking that is done, the initial ranking, how complex it is, if we anticipate more questions, we might hold back on doing that budget or that grant funding allocation portion, and not do that, and do that at a fourth workshop instead of covering at the third workshop. Really depends on how evenly distributed those project ranks are. If a lot are all really highly ranked and there's just a couple that are at the bottom, it may take a bit more time and discussion as a group to work on what the highest ranked projects are. Any questions on that, on next steps? Not seeing any. Check the chat box. I haven't checked that in a while. Nothing in the chat box. Let's go ahead and schedule the next meeting then. It's another required workshop. I was going to set it for 2 weeks out. Is the group free? Or generally, like we did last time, not everyone is free. But if someone can attend, someone from your organization is required to attend, and you can do it virtually as well for our new SAPA meeting policy. So how about Thursday, August 11th at 9 a.m. It'll be another 2-hour workshop. Do I have anyone who can't, just absolutely can't do that? They probably can't get anyone from their organization to attend.
Wouldn't be a great date for MODOC. We could try, but if there's another date, that would be great.
Western would
Yeah.
like another date too.
Monte Vista Water would prefer another date as we have our appropriate pool meetings at that same time.
Yeah, sure.
Also, Lake Elsinore would like another date.
How about Wednesday, August 10th at 9 to 11? Or
Western,
even 8.
Western would like another date. Sorry.
Do you have anyone else from your organization who could attend?
I think it's possible. If it's like 8 to 10, maybe.
Yeah. Or is the group okay with 8 o'clock?
That's a good time for Monte Vista Water District.
8 o'clock.
I believe Lake Elsinore, we will probably have someone attend.
Great, thank
Regional
you.
parks, we can make that work.
That works for IUA as well.
Great, thank you.
Rialto's on board.
Great,
Works for Valley District.
great,
Works
thank
for
you.
UMWD.
Yeah,
Alright.
that's a virtual meeting, right?
Sorry, say again.
Is that an online meeting?
Online meeting, yes. Virtual. All right, great. Well, I'll set out a calendar invite for that, and you'll see the ranking spreadsheet beforehand with time for you to adjust it, and we'll talk about it during the workshop. And like I mentioned, you may see the grant funding formula as a part of that. It just depends on kind of how the projects are ranked and how spread out the spread of their ranking numbers are. So you'll see that ahead of the meeting. Similarly, I'll do have kind of probably another PowerPoint, but a lot of it will be focused on the spreadsheet. You know, it'll be in a sort of like the project benefit spreadsheet that we've had in these meetings. It'll be similar. It'll, you know, be another column added there for the ranking, and then another column added for like the grant dollars based on our formula. And we'll have a couple of tabs associated with it so you can see the math in Excel for how we came up with those numbers. All right, so Wednesday, August 10th at 8 a.m. Any questions before we close for today?
I have one, Ian. It's Chris from IEUA. Are we to expect additional comments in response to the ones that we just submitted in time for the workshop, workshop 3?
I don't think so. I have a little bit of back and forth with some project proponents. I have to double check what you guys sent over, but I don't think so. But I'll have to double check. So for everyone, yeah, you won't have a ton more comments left, but it may be a little back and forth between you and me. And then if you have greenhouse gas comments, you'll probably see a spreadsheet from me where I have everyone's greenhouse gas calculations in the same spreadsheet using their math. And then I'll want everyone to give a thumbs up if you're a greenhouse gas calculator on that. So you'll see some more from me on that. Any other questions before we go? All right, I see something in the chat box. Thanks, Ian. No problem. Yeah, you're welcome. I always get nervous when I see something in the chat box, but then it's just a thank you. So that's always a great sign. Well, thanks everyone for your time, and we'll see you in about 2 weeks. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ian.
Bye.
Bye.